Happening Reds. This is the LFC transfer room. I'm Jay, joined by three lovely guests today. You'd normally have Louis, but he's on holiday, so you're going to have to do with me in the meantime, unfortunately for you. Kev, how are we, mate?
All good, mate. All good. Working from home, living the dream. Feet up. How are you, mate?
All good, mate. In the same position, we work on the same office, so being paid to be at home isn't the worst thing in the world, to be honest, is it?
Definitely not, mate. Definitely not.
And how about you, Drew? I haven't talked to you for a while, mate. How are you doing?
I'm still steaming over the last quiz that you beat me, but don't worry, there's another one. I'm doing good. Doing good.
If you want to get beat over both legs, mate, that's fine by me. And Neil, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, very well, mate. Very well, thank you. So I've got a holiday coming up myself, so trying to get things done before I go away. First question I asked was, where can I watch Premier League football? So
yeah, or go while the international break's on at least.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's all about the planning.
Yeah, got to plan ahead with the football. Otherwise, not much to do on holiday except get drunk.
I don't plan anything socially without checking the fixture list, to be honest.
Yeah, same, mate. I won't go anywhere. Christmas, weddings. I've missed my own wedding if Liverpool are playing, so
yeah,
that's just the way it is. Now, if you're new around, make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a lot. But we'll be going through a few topics today about things that have come up in the news. Shout out to some of the regulars as well. Are you Gary? Are you Jen? With us as always, basically season ticket holders. So the first thing I want to talk about is Bobby Firmino's future. So obviously Juventus have been linked to him recently for a £20 million move. But reports today are saying that Liverpool have got no interest in selling him unless they got an astronomical offer. So to you, Kev, what type of offer would it be that you'd say, yeah, I'm happy to sell Firmino, or is there no amount that you'd accept?
It's quite easy to say, and with me red tinted glasses on, I say, well, there's no actual offer I'd accept. But you've got to realise it's a business, and every player has a price. And if a price comes in and it's good, then you've got to take it. For me, it'd have to be over 40 for me before I'd even consider it. I know he's only got a year left on his contract and stuff like that, but no, he means that much to me. He means that much to the team. We use an integral part of him. If we go and to try and replace him for anything less is not even going to be. You won't be able to, for what he brings into the squad and what he does. He has gone off the boil the last 18 months. He's fell off far bigger than what I expected, but I've seen in pre-season, and I do get deluded in pre-season, so I get that, but he looks fit, he looks sharp, he looks in good nick, to be honest. And what a perfect person to have bringing the youth through, such as Carvalho. So it means more to me to lose him. So you're looking at 40 plus for me.
40 plus, man. What about you, Drew? Is there a fee that you take for Firmino, or are you the same as Kev? Take a big offer, and obviously the influence Firmino has on some of the younger players?
Yeah, I think I'm in a similar range as Kev. I definitely wouldn't want to lose him, especially since it doesn't look like we need the money. I think we're earning enough in the likes of Champions League to cover that fee easily. But then again, 40 mil for Bobby Firmino with 1 year on his contract, that would definitely tempt the owners. But I do agree with Kev. I think he offers a lot more than that. I actually think we're in the perfect position where we can see how he does this season. He's definitely dropped a bit in his performances, especially last season, but this could be a real chance to see if he still has, a lot to give us on the pitch. And then if so, we're at the point where we can offer him a new contract on reduced wages. I think he's 6th highest paid player at the club, and I think that's way too high for what his contribution was last year. But seeing as he only has 1 year left, if he'd be willing to stick around for 3 more years on a reduced wage contract, I think that's kind of suits everyone, because I don't see him wanting to leave. He's got his friends here, his family's established, and he does a role for the club where he's one of the only senior players in that role. You have Jota and Nunez coming up, so he's the only one with age experience in the side who can play up top at the moment. So I definitely want to keep him and under all those conditions. But similar like Kev, I think if we get an offer above 40 million for a player with 1 year left on his contract, we didn't even get that for Sadio. So I think that might be the pushing point.
Yeah, I completely agree with you with the contract situation. I think if you were to give him a new deal, I don't think you can justify him being the higher in the top 5 paid players for the contribution he's made. I agree with you. Gary in the comments said 70 million for Firmino. But what about you, Neil? What would it take for you to sell him, or are you the same as the other two lads?
For me, he's not for sale. I don't think we'd get a sizable fee like 40, 50 million, unfortunately, because I don't think any responsible club will pay that for someone that's going to be 31 this year. The reason I think we can't sell him is because of the amount of upheaval in those forward positions. So we've lost 3. We've lost Sadio Mane, Takumi Minamino, and Divock Origi. We've brought in Darwin Núñez and possibly Fabio Carvalho to play in one of the wide positions, although he can play in the false 9 or in midfield as well. So I wouldn't be comfortable in terms of the depth of the squad to lose him and the amount of upheaval that it's likely to bring. So I think he's a leader in the dressing room. I think he has very good relationships with a lot of the players. I just think we would lose so much by selling him, and I don't think we'll get a huge fee for him. So for me, he's not for sale.
It looks like most the viewers agree with all 3 of you. Jen says Bobby's a gem. We'll need him for this season. Gary wouldn't let him go unless it was 70 million, and I don't see anyone coughing that up anytime soon, but I think I'd take 70. Yeah. With that being said, then, I'll put this up to any of you really. Would you be happy to see Firmino leave next season on a free, or would you offer a contract? Drew, obviously, you mentioned if it was on reduced terms, so I'll put it to Kevin Neal. Would you be happy to see him leave on a free? Obviously, Juventus are known for free transfers. He's in it with Emre Can, Ramsey, Rabiot. So they usually put the feelers out when the contracts expire. And what would you make of that?
Go on, Kev.
I was hoping you were going to say yeah. I think it's quite right with what Neil was saying. And although I put an excessive amount on, I knew that there would be no one around that would be stupid enough to play that. So that's why I went as high as what I did. But it's hard. It's hard. I can see Drew's point in keeping them on reduced terms. Play as you go. Play as you earn. I don't know. For me, I'll be honest, I'm about 50-50 at the minute as to what I want to do. It depends what Bobby does this season for me, and how much of an influence and how much he's part and integral to the team. If he plays to the levels that he was prior to last season, then I would be willing to offer him a new deal, and I'd be looking to keep him and retain him. If it's the same kind of output as what he's produced last season, then I'd be more than willing of letting him go on a free with a half-hearted attempt at trying to keep him.
Yeah, I think he's publicly said that he wants to stay at the club, so I don't think he's in any particular rush to leave. So I think there's probably a 3 or 4 month period that we've got where we can kind of assess his performances, and then consider extending his deal. I mean, if last season, I don't think it was necessarily the output that was the problem, because I think his goals and assist numbers were quite good. I think it was the injuries that really were the problem, whereas the season before it was the output that was the problem. So we've had 2 seasons of it being either poor form or being disrupted by injury. We don't really know what we're going to get. So I think if we can leave it, 3 or 4 months to assess how he's going to perform. And he has looked good pre-season. I watched the Leipzig game, and I thought he looked really sharp first half, and I thought he really gave something. And I thought if you've got him and Nunes, two totally different players, you've got some great variation there. So I'm in the camp of if he earns a deal, then we can try and negotiate over the next 3 to 4 months if he's performing. I wouldn't want to lose him for free, but anything other than that, as Drew said, I think it's reduced terms.
Yeah, there's a comment here as well in the chat through from Lipoch saying if Bobby was to leave, it could have an impact on the likes of Firmino and Alisson. Do you think if Firmino was to leave, that would impact the Portuguese-speaking players at Liverpool?
I mean, I'm sure they'd be disappointed, but I think it's, they're all professionals, and who knows, Klopp might bring in another Portuguese-speaking player at that point. But, Thiago probably has some knowledge of Portuguese, seeing as he was born in Brazil, I think, or his dad was Brazilian. So I think you have enough players around them where they're not going to feel like left out to an extent. Like when Coutinho left, I think that was more of a worry for me for Bobby, because I was like, oh no, we don't really have any other Brazilians. And then there we go, we buy Alisson and then bring in a whole Latin America cohort and to have a nice little click there. But I think the team gels really well, and I don't think it's necessarily just a bunch of different clicks. I think they all have at least one or two guys in each, whether it's English like Milner or Ox or someone like that, or like Verge, who can just interact with everyone. Tsimikas looks like a pretty, friendly guy in every group. Salah seems to get along. So I think there's a real good family aspect at the club. So I really like to see that. And I don't think losing Bobby would, it'd be sad. And I'm sure, there'd be, it's never nice to see a friend move, but I think we have more than enough family members at the squad to keep everyone happy. Yeah,
I agree. So we're all pretty much in agreement that we wouldn't really sell Bobby unless we got an astronomical offer. The viewers are saying the same as well. Jen wants him to stay, Gary wants him to stay, so everyone's in agreement. That makes a change probably. So we'll move on to the next topic. So reports are coming out that Pep Ljinders was offered the assistant manager's role at Arsenal when Mikel Arteta took over, which I was quite surprised by, but it turns out they had a stint of doing the coaching badges together, I think it was, for a year. So that's probably where it stemmed from. So if that were to happen, Kev, back then, how big an impact do you think he would have had on Arsenal in the Arteta's Arsenal, the young squad?
Huge. Absolutely huge. I think his role at the club can go on. He's integral to Klopp to do what he needs to do at the club, and his coaching is just, it takes it to another level for me. The upgrades on Sacco that you've seen and the young players that are coming through, Smith Rowe as well, that would be double what it is now. They'd be flying out. They would be getting to the levels that the only thing that's missing is a fitness coach and a nutrition coach at Liverpool. He's vitally important to our team, and to try and replace the coach of that level and trying to find the next Pep Ljinders is hard. It's hard to do. We were fortunate that his managerial career fell apart, and we took him back after his first stint. And since then, he's just grown and grown and grown for me. He's influencing games. So it's not just down to Klopp, it's down to him coming out with different formations, different ways of playing, different tactics. It's phenomenal. And for Mikel Arteta, why not go for the best? Do you know what I mean? So, he tried. Fortunately for us, he failed. But there will be not many suitors when Klopp goes who will be looking and hounding for when Pep Ljinders is left there. And hopefully will be offered the job as taking over if Klopp decides to go.
I mean, it makes it more of a relief that he recently signed a new deal when you see there was other clubs sniffing around him as well. What about you, Neil? Do you agree with Kev? What type of impact do you think he would have had he actually went to Arsenal and not Liverpool?
Yeah, I think he's a top coach. I think he understands the game very well, as Kev said. You see a lot of his ideas being implemented, and even in-game changes coming from him, sort of picking up on things. So I don't think there's any doubt he's a class coach. Maybe his managerial stint became a little bit too early for him, but everything I see from him, the way he is with the players, the way he is with the media, when he speaks a lot. He's so interesting to listen to. I think he'd be an asset to any club, to be honest. And it does feel that there's kind of a succession plan in place, that he could be the replacement in 4 years' time. But as you say, he's tied down now. I think they've all those guys. I think they're all tied down to the same length of contract as Klopp, aren't they? So another 4 years. So it just feels like he's part of the succession plan, and I think deservedly so, because I think his impact is huge.
He's also identified a couple of the players that we've signed. I know he had an input on Jota, didn't he? He had a big input on Jota, so he doesn't just bring the coaching side of it either. He obviously identifies players that fit the style of play.
Yeah. He seems to like that, the Portuguese league, the Primeira Liga as well, doesn't he? Because I think a lot of that, the focus on that league and the likes of Nunes and Diaz is because of his fascination with that style of football and how they tend to integrate when they come to the Premier League. So yeah, you're right. As from that side of things, he's had a huge impact as well.
Yeah, and long may the poaching from Portugal continue the way things are going. It's great having that knowledge from him as well.
Yeah.
What about you, Drew? What type of impact do you think he'd have at Arsenal? I know you're a huge Arsenal fan.
Yeah, probably my least favorite team. Probably tied with Man United. But I would have been curious to see, because I think I'd wonder if he'd overshadow Arteta, because Arteta didn't have the best kind of start. I still don't. I think you can finally see what he's building, and you could see hints of that. But I think last year was a big letdown. Not getting fourth when it was essentially in their hands. And I'm curious if Ljinders, Pep would just kind of overshadow him in a bit. I think I wouldn't. It makes sense that he didn't take the job. It's like, why would you be number two with Arteta when you can be number two with Klopp? But I'm sure he would have done a great job, and would have worked under and conceded. Obviously Arteta being the manager, it would have worked well. Just don't really like to even really fantasize about that situation at all. So I'd like to think that Arteta would just look smaller and compared to Pep, and it would just cause strife.
I'd actually love to see your face if Arsenal somehow managed to pull that off, because I know how passionate you are about Arsenal.
Do you think Arsenal really do you think they really let themselves down? Because they actually improved on the season before. And I think, to give him credit, he has got rid of a lot of players that he needed to get rid of. So I think he's now at the point where he's starting to add his players that he perceives to be the right players and with the right attitude. And I think the test is now going forward rather than it was a year ago. Yes, they fell away at the end and that was disappointing, but it was still a huge improvement on the season before, when he had those players that he didn't really fancy because of attitude or whatever. So I didn't see it as such a big letdown last season. But
yeah, I think you said it. You just, not to go off on the Arsenal tangent, but I think his project was a long-term project, and Arsenal fans always needed to give him a long time. I just think it was an interesting ego battle that he had at the club. Felt like there was a lot of toxicity there that he chose to clear out, and we'll see if it works. I think the fourth place last year was a real chance to cement their quality and take a big step forward, but it looks like they did good business over the summer. But if they again miss out on top four this year, which I expect them to do, then it's starting to look like he's more of a Brendan Rodgers bridge gap to somebody who could come in better and take them to the next level.
Yeah, they've definitely got an exciting young squad, and they should have qualified for the Champions League last season. But I think sometimes when you've got a young squad, that's what can happen. You can look great for 5 games and then not look so great for 2 or 3 games. That's what it's like with youth football. But I'll put this to you, Drew, then. So, under Buvat, I don't think Liverpool mounted the title challenge. I think it was when he left. So, let's say Ljinders was to leave. Do you think Liverpool would still be challenging for the honours that they've been challenging without Ljinders if he'd have went to Arsenal?
I'd like to say yes. I like to think that we'd, come up with somebody who could do equally as good of a job, but the answer is I don't know. I don't know. It just seemed Pep fit in brilliantly. He took over Buvac, which seemed like I was really worried when we lost him and that whole thing melted down, because I think the Champions League push at that stage was backed from him. You have the classic, the brain for Klopp, and it definitely worried me. But when Pep stepped in, it was, he improved the team. It looked like it just started, cruising up, going through the gears and taking us to the next level. I don't know if you overturn a 3-0 deficit to Barcelona at home. I don't know if you come back after 1 point, losing to Man City and absolutely storm the league next season. So I'd like to hope that we could get someone that could have done, as good a job, but I think you're pushing hard to say that we would have had the success without him.
What about you, Kev? Do you think without Ljinders, or do you think his impact would have had a big input on what we've been challenging for? Do you think we'd still, the same question basically, would we still be challenging for the same honours if Ljinders weren't there?
I think we would. I think what would happen is you'd see what happened when the brain left, in the fact that there's a kind of promotion within the coaches until someone stand out comes across, or whether we can bring someone in. Is input, yeah, it's vital, but there's other coaches that will have their own little intakes and their own little tweaks as to how to do things. It's just that we miss his kind of vibrant Klopp. It's like a mirror of Klopp in a way, especially when he speaks from the heart, speaks true, and you just want to listen to him all day. I think we would have found someone. He's an important part of that, but he's not the only part. I think the vital part for me is the nutritional and the fitness coach. Without those two, you can bring whoever you want in. If you're not eating well and you're not doing the gag and press and you're not fit enough to do it, then they're just as integral as the actual as the formation. And he has a big say in that, but I'd imagine the others would step up until we found someone else if we had to, and it would be dealt with without any fuss. You go with our blessing, as Klopp would do, and then we would go out and start looking for a new one if there wasn't already one at the club, and we'd do a little bit of a promotion, bit of tweak around until that person's found, and we'd still continue. And it would, and that's the fluidity of when Klopp's in charge, is that nothing will ever change. It may sound drastic, when the brain, when we're going, just before the European Cup final, what's going on here? What's happened here? But we carried on. We win the European Cup, and then the following year, bring Ljinders in, and then we win the Premier League. So we'd still be there. It wouldn't be a big miss for me. I think the biggest miss for me is if he did go, because then we would want him. We'd have to then try and force him to come back when Klopp does go.
What do you think, Neil? Do you agree with Kevin's Drew, or have you got
Yeah, absolutely. I think they've hit the nail on the head, really. I think with us generally, our recruitment in the entire club has been almost faultless for the last, since Klopp joined the club. So yeah, I think Ljinders is a real asset, but there would be someone else that could do the job. Whether they would do it as well, whether they would do it differently, I'd still think that we'd be in a good place. And the other thing is, we always tend to be thinking ahead, and Kev mentioned about the nutritionists, and we're always looking for small marginal gains on things. I think you see Trent wearing this neuro thing on his head in training. So if we lost something by losing Ljinders, we might gain something in another area. So I think collectively, we still end up where we are, because they all play their part in what is a very functional wheel. And when one goes out, one steps up. So I'm confident that, you know, we'd still be okay without him, but we're very happy to have him.
That's a great point, that actually, Neil. And even Jen's just said in the comments, which is a really good point. The medical team have been one of the best signings recently because obviously where Matip and Keita normally plagued with injury throughout the season. Last season they both stayed pretty fit. Well, Matip stayed fit the whole season. I think Keita might have had 1 or 2 knocks. So definitely right there. Obviously, other people
in, didn't he? Towards the end of the 2020-21 season, which was the nightmare injury season, he brought someone in that he'd worked with previously in Germany. I can't remember the guy's name.
We brought another one in as well, haven't we?
Yeah, we have just recently, And they're like rehab specialists. And as you say, with the likes of Matip and Keita, everything, you know, was far more positive. I don't think Matip missed the game through injury for the whole season.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's definitely his best season for injuries, definitely.
So hopefully they'll continue to have the impact the guy he brought in and the one he's brought in recently.
There was a comment there as well.
You also got to bring into the fact.
Go on, Kev.
Oh, I was just going to try and make a joke about the fact that they're all on that. They're all asthmatic, so you know that helps as well.
There's a comment from Oliver Pell saying that they could see Pep Ljinders potentially managing a Premier League team this season. Do any of you envisage that happening? Do you think Ljinders would move for a Premier League team now, or do you think there's a certain team only that he'd go to? That's for anyone.
I think it's difficult to say. If it depends. If he feels that he's got a chance of getting the big job at Liverpool in 4 years' time, he may be better off sitting tight. If he hasn't got much security over that decision, then he may look to prove himself elsewhere. It's quite common that number twos get targeted, don't they? And they go and take on jobs. So I think a lot of it depends on what he thinks his future is at Liverpool post Klopp. And the decision would be made accordingly based on that, I think.
Just a quick one, Sue, is that who your next pick would be after Klopp, Kev? Would Ljinders be your choice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you look what Klopp's trying to do, he's trying to build that boot room, and you can see already he's trying. He's done his take on it, a modern version of the boot room. And you look at what we've done with Michael Edwards, we've brought within Julian Ward, so it's only right that continues and evolves. Klopp is willing to leave a legacy, and that legacy is to ensure that it continues and develops, such as what Shankly did. Shankly, if you look at the boot room, had nearly 5 decades of success, and it was built on people who were within the boundaries of that boot room, and no one from outside was brought in, and that's how you evolved, and that's how we adapted. Now, whether we go down that model again, I'm quite happy, but I'm not willing to just let Klopp go and then believe that we'll go out and search and we'll bring Steven Gerrard in and everything's going to be great. It has to continue and it has to evolve. And if that means that Pep gets an opportunity to put his ideas out and he gets given the opportunity to take the job, then I'll be willing and more than happy to take that. I'm not one of these that believes that Steven Gerrard, because he's played for the club, deserves automatically to be given a choice. I think prior to Klopp, I would be all over Gerrard coming in. But you look at what Klopp's done, he's took us to another level, to another atmosphere that we've never been before. We're now a place where people want to come and play football. We're not a place where people come as a port to move on to elsewhere. We're a big club, we're a huge club, and we look after our players, and it's a community. It's a family community, and that continues. Gerrard, for me, the only way he gets even in the conversation is if he takes Villa and wins a cup and gets them into the Champions League. And even then, he would then have to take them to the quarterfinals and prove himself that way. He has to improve. It's early on in his career. Let's give him time to grow, give him time to adapt his ideas and a way of playing. yeah, it's great what he's done in Scotland. Now he's come to the Premier League. Let's see what you do with Villa. You haven't said anything for me to say that you're going to take over from Liverpool. Let's see what you do. Does he last the full 4 years of his contract? So for me, for Gerrard to be in that conversation, he has to do something out of this world and out of the extraordinary with Villa, or he needs to move to another team that will allow him Champions League football, so we can see what he's like in Europe.
Well, that's all. We never have to do a job interview with Kev. I completely agree with you, don't you can't hire on sentiment. So I do completely agree with you, mate. You can't hire on sentiment. Neil's already nodded, so I know what he thinks about Pep being next. Would you pick Pep next as well?
Based on how things went with the extension of the contract, I think that will be enough time to see the next stage of the squad come through. Like, I think it's really important Klopp signed on for those additional 2 years and everyone else did, because now this is a chance to set up a new squad, like a younger squad, bring in the next, the change of guards, if you will. Like, it's the opposite of how Ferguson left at like a peak and then the club needed complete rebuilding. So if it was a rebuild job, I don't think I'd want Pep to do that. But if he's he's going to be involved with bringing up these players and establishing the next, change of guards. So I think him stepping in at that point would be, just an easy change and seamless to see Klopp pass the reins on to Pep. And I think it'd work really well because he knows the system. He's a part of that system. He's built up these players. So I think it makes sense in that regard. But if it was more along the lines of a rebuild, I would look for someone else and I'd get the best manager out there.
If you are new to the channel or you're just visiting today, make sure that you like the video and subscribe to the channel because it helps us out a lot. But that'll bring us on to our next topic. So Paul Mason's been in the media saying that he thinks Luis Diaz could struggle this season because defenders are more aware of the way he plays and they'll be used to him now. I'm not sure if he's been back on the juice or on the disco dust, but seems a pretty stupid thing to say because you could argue the same about Saka cutting in on the left. You could argue the same about Salah. But what do you think, Kev? Do you think that Diaz might struggle next season because defenders have got his number?
No, I can only see it going one way, and he gets better and better. He's extraordinary. Diaz. There's many bows to his talents, and we've only seen 6 months of that, and what we saw in 6 months is basically what we're going to get for the next for this season. A full pre-season behind him, this boy's going to fly. And I'd say Paul Mason comments, and it goes in one ear, flies around, not even for half a second, and flies back out. I totally disagree with that completely. But who am I? I'm not, I'm a nobody, but at the same time, my opinion is that I can only see that boy flying. For what I saw, his interview at the Porto game against us, in which the home game, he was the only one who I actually looked at and thought, wow, he is boss him. I'd love him under Klopp. And little did I know that 3-4 months later, he's at the club and he's doing the same. He is going to fly for me.
True. For me, Diaz was arguably one of the best players in the league from when he signed up until the end of the season. What do you think? Do you agree with Mace that defenders are aware of what his game style is now and his way of play, that his numbers up, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think I said before, it's, you could say that about anyone. Anyone can watch a player's game and kind of suss him out. I think what Diaz does brilliantly that kind of goes to his natural abilities is his reflexes. Like, his speed is insane. Like, a defender can dive in and he just quickly touches it around. It's like you can know what he's doing and he'll still do it. Kind of reminds me of Suarez when he likes to meg people, and yet he'd still get it through your legs, even if they're like crisscrossed with like an inch of space to do it. It doesn't matter when a player is that talented. It's not reliant on like just a one facet game where it's like speed, where it's like, okay, this player only has speed. It's like, no, Diaz has touch, he has quick reflexes, he has the great dribbling, he has all the, as Kev said, he has all like the arrows in his quiver to attack you in X many ways. So I don't think it matters if players watch his games, he's still going to be able to beat him. So it was a kind of stupid comment from Merson. So that's my opinion.
Not like Merson. What about you, Neil? Do you agree with the boys, or do you think Merson's back on the hooch?
I think Diaz is an outstanding player, and I think he does have a Suarez vibe around him. I think his performances will remain strong and were pivotal last season. He boosted everybody at the club last season and gave us a big lift. If there's one concern I have, and it's not really a huge concern, is output in terms of goals and assists numbers. So I think when he was at Porto, he was far exceeding his expected goals, and since he's been at Liverpool, it's gone the other way. So Suarez was a bit like that. I think when he joined in the January, he didn't fire, and then suddenly he just started to fly. So yeah, I don't really have any doubts. I would just like to see, regular goal scoring, regular assisting to go with the other assets that we've got up front, and he'll be an outstanding player for us.
You made a really good point there, actually, Neil. I remember when we first had Suarez, he couldn't finish under Dalglish. He did all the hard work, and then so often he wouldn't score. When Rodgers came, he obviously became the deadly striker that he became. So Charles just mentioned in the comments, like what you just said yourself, his finishing needs to improve. So what do you expect from Diaz this season in terms of goals and assists? Now he's got a full pre-season behind him. He's already played since January in the Premier League. What do you think is a good output from him?
I think above 10 Premier League goals would be a good marker, but I honestly don't think it's going to matter as long as we're scoring, and I can't see us not scoring. I think if Nunez gets the goals, if Salah gets another 30 goals, hopefully for me the big thing is if the midfield chips in and scores some goals, that would be nice. But I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're winning games. Everyone's contributing to an extent. So, and we certainly have enough quality where if someone's not contributing, someone will step up and take their place. So I'd say Diaz personally should be aiming for 10 plus goals in the Premier League, and maybe around the same with assists. But if he's, that guy who plays in the pass, the key passes that lead to goals, then, I don't think Klopp or any supporters can have problems with that, because he's certainly a quality player. We know what he can bring to the team, and he opens up the play by beating players on the wing and then providing those opportunities. He's doing his job.
What about you, Neil? What type of output do you expect from Diaz this season in terms of goals and assists, or what would you consider to be a successful season for him?
I'm probably a bit harsher because I think I've been used to having Sadio Mane scoring a lot from the left, so I'd bump it up to 15 goals and a decent number of assists, 10 assists maybe. I think Drew's right that you've got Jota, you've got Salah, you've got Nunez, who potentially should probably all get more goals than Diaz. But as I say, I think I'd like to see him really hit the ground running. I think things going for you early in a season can be really key. So with Nunez and with Diaz, if they got early goals, I think that could then sort of be a bit of a springboard for both of them. So I think he's an outstanding player, and I'd set him a 15 goals, 10 assists target.
I think you're right. Momentum does have a big part to play in football. I think Salah's first season, momentum made him just keep scoring and scoring and scoring. And the same with Jota last season, to be honest. I think you just build momentum, and then as a striker, when that confidence builds, you just go in for you, don't they? What about you, Kev? What do you think would be a successful season for Diaz, or what you'd expect as output for him?
I'm with the lads. I'm more with towards Neil, to be honest. I'm looking between 15 plus goal contributions, so a combination of goals and assists. But I'll be expecting that gets to the high 20s. There's no reason why it can't. And I just think that I agree. Confidence is key, and if he gets the ball rolling and gets a goal and 2 assists in the Fulham game, then that just builds on that confidence, and he goes into the next game and it'll continue. And it was like Jota last season, where we relied heavily on him in the last for at least 2 months in from January and February at least, and he got us into the Carabao Cup final by his goals against Arsenal, and his and then that built on his contribution, and then he was scoring more. So around 15, I'd say. Not necessarily how many goals he's going to score, but it'll be goal contributions. I'd be more concerned about. So a combination, whether that's more assists than goals, I'm not bothered as long as he's hitting those numbers any way you want them. You can fight over if it's goals or assists between yourselves. But no, 15 above. But I'm expecting high 20s from next season.
And to be fair, Charles in the chat as well said 15 Diaz, 30 Salah, 25 Nunes, 25 Jota, and then the rest obviously a mix. So I wasn't going to ask this, but because Charles has brought it up, obviously Salah's our main goal scorer normally. We've brought in Nunes, obviously, who's been brought in to score goals, and Diaz, as Neil mentioned, has a good record in Portugal. So I'll ask each of you, who do you expect to be the top scorer for Liverpool this season, Kev?
Mo Salah.
And how many goals would you say do you think he'll get?
I'd say he'll get his usual 30 plus. I think it bodes well for him this season. He could hit the 40 again because he's got no World Cup at the end of November. So with him having a full season with us, and no kind of AFCON or nothing like that going on, and Sadio Mane in his head because he's just won the African Cup of Nations and knocked them out of the World Cup tournaments, and probably wants to do his head in a way after those games. And he looks better. To be honest, what's kind of helped him, I think, and I don't know if the guys agree, is that the fact that the emphasis is on Nunes and Haaland, who's going to be top goal scorer. It's kind of relieved the pressure off him, even though he's just signed a big deal and a big contract at the club. So for me, you've got in a sense a new lease of life in Salah for me. So yeah, I'll be looking at about 30, 35, probably pushing 40.
Let's hope Nicholas is right, and we do in the Premier League and Champions League in the comments. Drew, what about you, mate? Who's going to be the top scorer for Liverpool this season, and how many goals do you think they'll get?
I agree with Kev. I think it's going to be Mo Salah. I think the renewal of the contract, everything around it says that he's the main man of the club. I expect him, I'll go conservative 27 goals for him in the Prem. I think Kev was spot on too with the fact that Nunez relieves some of the pressure. I think this is the first time we've had an actual finisher at the number 9 role, where it's, I think a lot of the burden happened on Salah's shoulders. And, with Mane too, I think both of them, when they weren't finishing, it was, you could get critical of them. They'd miss easy opportunities, one-on-ones. I know last season, both of them missed a fair number of easy shots that cost us the game. I'm thinking of Leicester. I think they both had one-on-ones that game that they didn't finish, but I think it just added more pressure to the both of them that they were where we were looking to score. Our midfield wasn't contributing. Firmino's not meant to have that finishing role, so I think Nunez coming in just gives you see him the other day against Leipzig. He just knows how to put the ball in the back of the net. So I think having that as your number 9 in the game just relieves so much pressure and will give Salah a lot more space to score the goals. But I think he's still the main man. 27 goals for him in the Prem.
And what about you, Neil? Are you going to be the hat-trick, ironically, and pick Salah, or do you
I think it's Salah for me. I think having Núñez on the pitch will play into Salah's hands, and I think it will create more space for him, because I think defenders will be drawn to Diaz and to Núñez, and I think that will just free up more space for Salah, who at times was marked by 2 players last season. So I think he'll have a good season. I think he'll be 30 plus again.
I agree. I watched the training drill of Salah's finishing yesterday, and oh my God, like, that man is incredible. If you haven't seen it, try and watch it on the website. So that'll bring us to our last topic. So Liverpool were linked with Inaki Williams from Bilbao, his brother, for 50 million. There's reports today saying that Bilbao can rest because Liverpool haven't got any interest in using his 50 million release clause. So, Kev, do you reckon that's the type of player Liverpool should be looking for? Now, his record is he scored 3 goals in over 40 games, and he is a forward player. I mean, obviously it's not all just about stats. He is seen as a really exciting prospect by a lot of outlets, but what are your thoughts? Do you think that's the type of player we should be looking to get at that price and with that record?
Well, if you're looking at the record, you're probably saying no. Do you know what I mean?
Good job on that as agent, isn't it?
But no, to be honest, I'll be honest. I don't know much about the lad, so I can't really comment on that. But if he is seen as, I'm more excited the fact that you are getting these potentials that are going to be world beaters potentially. I'm a bit of a romantic when it comes to all that. I quite like getting linked to all these young prospects and having my heart ripped out when they don't meet the expectations of what everyone thinks. So I'm Cinnamon Ponga, like, just for one, you know what I mean. So it's for me. It's I'll always get excited when I see stuff like this. But at the end of the day, if it comes off, then I don't. But I'll be honest, Jay, I don't know much about him, so I don't know how to answer it. Sorry.
No, that's fine, mate. That's why I gave you the little stat, because I know 90% of people will probably say, well, no, Firmino won that last year, he's an old midfielder. But with that being said, Liverpool have been linked with Doku before, who Klopp was meant to love and asked him to come, and his record isn't great for goals and assists. So what about you, Neil? Do you think, you might not know much about him either, Nico Williams, but do you think that's the type of player Liverpool should be looking for in the market at the minute, given what we've already got up front and given the cost, 50 mil?
Yeah, I think what you're looking at is potential. And I did see the reports, actually. He's got this release tag of 50 million euros, and the reports were pretty clear that we wouldn't pay that now. So you're looking at someone that's probably going to have another year or two to develop, and I think he's 20. So we, if we were going to go in for him, he'd be 21, 22. Been capped Spanish under 21 international. There's rumours that he'll be called up to the national team. So it's definitely one to keep an eye on, because there's a lot of people within the game that think very highly of him. As Kev said, if you did it based on the numbers at the moment, it seems a lot of money, but you're buying that potential. So I think it's one to watch rather than one to expect within the next 12 months.
Just for the comments, the Community Shield Saturday against City, in case you don't know, I think someone said Sunday, if you're waking up Sunday to watch the match, you're going to be disappointed because it's not going to be the Community Shield. Drew, what about you, mate? Do you think Williams is someone we should be targeting given his age and potential, or is 50 million a bit steep, and do we need to strengthen other areas more?
I don't know much about the player. I liked his brother a lot, though. I thought his brother was really good for Bilbao. I used to watch Bilbao a lot back when he was younger. I think after Torres left, we got linked with Inaki Williams for a few seasons, and I was like, yeah, let's go for him. But one club kind of legend for that. I think Bilbao's got that whole. You have to be from Bilbao to play there, and it's quite amazing that they've done as well as they have in their history. But I don't know much about his brother or his younger brother, but if he has the potential of his older brother, it might be something worth looking at. But I don't think for 50 million at this point in time. I think with that kind of money, you're better off throwing that at Bellingham, adding another 50 on that and getting someone in who we know what they can do and position that we need. I think if Nunez takes off, then you're looking for someone who's a backup rather than investing 50 million in a bench player.
I feel like we should get an alarm for the stream for whenever someone mentions Jude Bellingham. That's like the key word, like the trick word. It doesn't matter what the stream's about. Somehow Jude Bellingham comes up on it. He's the most famous man in Liverpool, and I don't know whether he knows it or not. You made a good point though, Drew, about Matty Williams. I think he's got the longest record for consecutive games played. It's something like 3 or 4 seasons. He's played every single game, which it's a pity we couldn't find a midfielder with the same type of record, really, given our midfield record. Well, that's the end of the subjects, actually, to be fair. That brings us to the end of the stream. Make sure, if you haven't already, that you like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a lot. And don't forget, we play tomorrow in a pre-season friendly against Salzburg. So try and catch that if you can. And obviously, we'll be doing the watch-along, so tune in for that if you can. But that's it from me and the LFC Transfer Room and the boys. Thanks for watching, and see you again next time.